Hello and welcome to the One Degree Show. I am your host, ELLAMAE, and join me as we talk to elite entrepreneurs about the one connection, the one person that changed the trajectory of their business and their life. Let's get into it. All right. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning back into the One Degree Show. So I am here today with Michael Morawski. So Mike is a 30+ year real estate investment veteran. Oh my God, I can't talk. He's a 30+ year real estate investment veteran. He's controlled over $285 million in real estate transactions. He's an entrepreneur, an author, a real estate trainer, a public speaker, a personal coach with strong personal resilience. Part of the reason why I wanted to put this title on here, and I didn't even check with him, I'm hoping that's cool, From Prison to Prosperity, is because he has a very cool story of what he went through as a business owner in the early days, how he came out of that, turned it around. Really cool guy. I'm going to bring him in right now. Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ella. I appreciate it. I'm honored, actually. So thank you.
It is my pleasure. And okay, first thing, I just want to make sure, am I saying your last name right? Michael Morawski?
You are actually, and you can just call me Mike. So
I can just call you Mike?
I go by a lot of things, but Mike works well. So
I feel like we're getting friendly. I like it. Okay, amazing. Well, thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got to where you are now, because you have a really interesting story.
Yeah. So I've been in real estate 30 years. You kind of alluded to that in my bio. And what I like about your show is that one person, right? That one person that made an impact in somebody's life. And what's cool is that there hasn't just been one in my life. There's been a few. And, I heard Jim Rohn say years ago that success leaves clues. So I have always kind of lived by that. So I was in the construction business and I was burned out. I woke up one morning, I was married to my wife, and looked at her and I said, I can't do this anymore. I was, banging nails, still going on sales calls, handling customer complaints, doing the bookkeeping, doing the scheduling, doing the ordering. And I couldn't take it anymore. I had somebody knocking on my door to buy my company. So I sold my company and took a year off. And during that year, we house hacked a couple of houses, and this is long before it was sexy, right? Today, it's like everybody does it. That's how you get into home ownership. But back then it wasn't like that. So we house hacked a couple of houses, and along the way, I met a real estate agent who was extremely successful. And I went to him and said, hey, Todd, I think I'd like to go in the business. He said, I think you'd be good at it. And he really encouraged me. So I went back to him and I said, hey, could I shadow you and your team? And he said, no, I'm going to do one better. I'm going to make you a cassette tape. So now I might be dating myself a little bit. I don't think you could find anything to make a cassette tape on anymore, right? So he made me this cassette tape and I listened to it over and over and over again. And the fundamentals on there, I just followed them. I went into real estate sales. I sold residential real estate. My first 9 months in the business, I sold 78 houses. Went on to build a team selling 125 listings a year and did that consecutively for about 10 or 12 years. 2005 rolled around. I saw the market starting to shift and soften and decided I wanted to go do something else. So I went into the apartment business and I went out. I raised $18 million in private capital. I bought $60 million worth of real estate. It was about 4,000 apartments in 5 different markets, and grew a property management company managing about 7,500 units over that time.
Very cool. And what happened? I know we've talked about this privately, but like what happened when you were managing all those companies? And the thing that really had a really big impact on your life.
Yeah. So, it grew way too fast. 30 months is a very short period of time to raise all that capital, buy a bunch of real estate, and be over leveraged. I was over leveraged to begin with. So I had $60 million worth of real estate that we only had 85% loan to value on. So it was very rocky and very unstable. I grew a company. I had over 100 employees working for me, and, trying to keep all the plates spinning and everything balanced wasn't easy. 2008 rolls around, and most people, I'm sure, remember what happened in 2008. It was like hitting a brick wall in a freight train. The whole world came off the rails, and my company started to unravel at the seams. And so I tried to save my company is what happened. I had a number, I had 38 different companies, and we had a number of them that should have just let them go to foreclosure and didn't do that. Tried to save all those investors because I didn't want anybody to get hurt. I'm the hero, right? I don't want anybody to get hurt, and I want to make sure everything's okay for everybody. And so I started to move money back and forth between companies. So I took money from successful, profitable companies and put it in non-profitable companies I should have let go to foreclosure. And my accountant and my attorney both said it's okay to do that, just leave a paper trail. And I did. However, I didn't disclose it to my investors. So for non-disclosure issues, I got charged with wire fraud and mail fraud charges and sentenced to 10 years in federal prison for that. Crashed and burned a little bit.
And what was, I mean, it's one of those things where you're told by your advisors, basically, hey, this is cool, just leave a paper trail. There was a technicality you weren't aware of. Yeah. And boom, you're now facing 10 years in prison. So, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, what was prison like?
It sucked.
Yeah.
I saw things, heard things, and witnessed things that are, experienced things that most people probably shouldn't, that you wish you wouldn't. Everybody says, oh, you were in Camp Fed, but it's, you're still gone. You're still behind a wall. You still lost everything. Here's what I tell people, Ella. I never flew private. I didn't have a big house. I didn't buy a boat. I was the neighborhood baseball coach. I was home every night for dinner. My wife and I had a great marriage. We were best friends. And I got ripped from that to live in a 12 by 12 room with three men I didn't know, nor did I like. I had 3 green outfits, 5 pairs of cardboard underpants, wondering what the hell happened in my life. Can I swear on this show?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. And so I'm in prison about 17 days, and I'm walking around wondering, how am I going to get through today, much less 10 years of this, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my wife decides she's going to leave me and wrecked me. So, I went through the next couple of years really in a tough spot. But 6 weeks in, I walk into the gym one day, and, again, a defining moment in my life. And I always tell people, look, I was just window shopping. I had gone from running marathons, being in great shape, to being 35 pounds overweight, absolutely hated myself, and really didn't know what I was going to do. I walk in the gym, and this kid walks over to me, and I say kid because he's probably 20, 25 years younger than me. And he says, hey, don't let these people beat you. All they want to do is take from you everything that you've ever known, everything you've ever had. They can take your business. They can take your real estate. They can take your money. They can destroy your family. But what they can't take is who you are and what you're made of. And I don't know, something clicked, right? It was like somebody turned a light switch on, and what he started to say made sense. And I'll never forget this guy. And so he said, come to my class every day and start working out. You'll start feeling better. You'll start losing weight. And I don't know what it was, but I took him up on it. And I started going to his class. I started working out. I started losing weight. I wound up going to college. I spent 4 years. I got a bachelor's degree in theology. I wrote 2 books. One was on multifamily investing. One was on property management. I wrote 2 home study courses. I wrote an ethics course. I taught real estate investing, property management, and ethics in prison for 6 years. I was on an outreach program. I went into the community. I told my story like 40 times to local business owners and local college students. I met a professor from the University of Minnesota, and he and I co-authored a paper that we had published last year in the Business Journal of Ethics. which gets taught at the collegiate level for forensic accounting and sales and marketing classes. And today I'm home. I'm in the coaching and training business. So.
Wow. Okay. So what was that transition like for you? I mean, coming out of prison, that was when you met the guy at the gym, correct?
Well, when I was in prison about 6 weeks. And so, I was gone for about 8 years. And so that was early on when I got to prison, and he really, I could have slept for 8 years, and I didn't. I stayed busy and did things that I knew I would come home and, I wanted to have an impact on the world when I came home. And, I want to be able to, here's what I know is we can't let our past define us, right? Too many people walk around going, oh, I'm a drug addict. I got raped. I went to prison. This happened to me. My parents got divorced. I got divorced. My kids died. There's too much of that in our world. And what I understand is that we can't let our past define us, because as soon as we do, we're out of the game. And I don't think any of us really want to be out of the game.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. And so when you met the guy that was in prison, that was like when you met the trainer, or that was when you were just out?
No,
okay.
That was, yeah. His name was Kirk.
Oh, cool.
Interesting story. So
Okay.
about 2 months ago, I see him on Facebook, right?
Okay.
And I reached out to him, and he was doing some banter about something. I don't even remember what it was, but I reached out to him and I said, hey, Kirk, I said, I don't know if you remember this or not. And I tell the story, and like he messages me offline, and he says, man, you don't know how much I needed that today. He goes, I'm having such a bad day. And I forgot all about that. And I'm so glad that it worked that way. So, it's kind of funny how things come back around to people, especially when you do good things for people, right?
That's amazing. Very cool. Okay. So coming out of prison, because I mean, that's something that would knock most people like on their ass, like having to do 10 years in federal prison over, something you didn't even realize you were doing wrong. And then you come out of prison, and I mean, you've come out really strong, built another company. What's allowed you to do that? Like, tell us about how that's been.
Yeah. So a couple things, I have a work ethic that I think I got from my father over the years. And I think that's one thing. The other thing is that I'm just somebody, I can't quit, right? I'd rather say I would rather say that I failed because I tried than to fail because I didn't try, right? So I've done it before. I know I can do it again. I'd come home. I had some friends who believed in me and said, hey, we know you're going to knock it out of the park, and have been very supportive. So.
Wow. Very cool. And talk to us a little bit about what you're doing right now with your business and your programs, because you're doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah, thanks. I'm in the coaching and training business. I teach multifamily investors and entrepreneurs how to scale their business, but more importantly, live a balanced lifestyle. I don't think any of us grow professionally unless we grow personally. So one of my goals with every one of my clients is that I stretch them. I stretch them personally, make them get out of their box, do things that they wouldn't normally do, and how they grow their business that way. So, my core focus is the multifamily real estate investor, the new person coming in the business, or somebody who's been in the residential side and all of a sudden understands that multifamily is a great way to scale their business and their income. But I like that entrepreneur. Like, I work with a guy who owns a construction company and a guy who owns a staging company, and just those entrepreneurial skills. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 23 years old. I opened my first business and never looked back, right? I'm unemployable. I can't get a job anywhere because I just believe so much of what I should do on my own. And so it's those skills though, that and my work ethic that has helped me to continue to grow that company. So yeah, I do the coaching and training. I do some live events. I do one-on-one training. The other thing I do is I roll my sleeves up and I get down in the trenches with my coaching clients. So recently, I've been approved by the SEC to go back and be an issuer and a sponsor of deals. Got approved by the state of Illinois that if I wanted to go back and get my real estate license, I could. So, it's kind of that redemption piece, it's kind of like, it's kind of interesting to watch that come around. It's fun to massage that and make it happen. So, yeah, we just closed our first 40-unit deal. So we're actually raising private capital again and building that portfolio. I'm back in the property management business. So in Chicago, I have a small, right now small, not to be too small though, property management company that we're going to scale. So.
Very, very cool. I like it. I like it. And so if somebody wanted to work with you, would it be primarily on the real estate investment side? Do you do any coaching? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I do one-on-one coaching, and that's primarily what I do. I only take on a few clients a year on a personal basis that I want to work with that client, teaching them what they need to know, and then partnering with them on a deal. So I want to work side by side with those clients that I work with. So that's in that multifamily space.
Very cool. I like it. And tell us the story. So what's the one connection, the one person that changed the trajectory of your life or your business?
Yeah, that's kind of what I said at the beginning. I think there's been a couple of them. I mean, I have to look at Kirk, right? And that guy, I walked into gym that day, and he, he just changed my life, because I don't know what I would have done if it wasn't for that conversation. I walked around every day just wondering how I was going to get through today. You go from living this life, even just moderate middle class lifestyle, to all of a sudden being ripped from that and ripped from your family, and your family being ripped from you, to all of a sudden being in this place. So that conversation with him made me want to go and be the best version of myself that I possibly could be, so that I could come home and be a great ex-husband and be a great father to my kids. And I have two kids that I haven't talked to in about 8 years. And they, they're mad. They can't get over it. And, but I believe that at some point that something will happen that, we will rebuild a relationship again. But, right now it's just kind of tough. So, in the spirit of that, I wanted to be the best version of me that I could possibly be, so that they knew that they would be accepted, forgiven, loved, no matter what happened. And then the other person is that individual who when I first went into the real estate business, made such an impact in my career, because he taught me those fundamentals. He taught me those things that if I just went and did the same thing every day, day after day, that I could be successful. And he taught me how to learn to embrace the repetitious boredom, the stupid things that get you further along. I'm an old school guy, and I believe in old school. So I believe in some of the techniques that help me build that business. I love social media today. I love being on social media. But I still think old school is the best way to go get business. And so those techniques I learned from Todd way back then are still transferable in the real estate space today. And so those are some of the things I teach my coaching clients too. So.
And for someone who's like just looking to get into the real estate space, maybe it's on an investment side, maybe they're looking to get their license. What would be, because it's especially now with the metaverse, there's a lot of talk around, owning land in the metaverse, and there's some cool investments. I know friends of mine, like millennial friends of mine, that aren't even creating a college fund anymore. They're just buying properties.
Yeah.
And using that and the revenue that's going to come from that as their kids' education, start up a business, whatever they want, like just to give their kids a leg up, when they're at that age. So what would be your advice for somebody looking to get into it?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would say just step forward into it. Educate yourself, get all the knowledge you possibly can. And now I'm an advocate for education. I'm an advocate for getting the knowledge you need. And I don't necessarily mean going to college and getting that education, but getting the education around what you don't know. We can, as individuals, we spend our time in one of four categories, right? We know what we know what we don't know, we know what we should know, and then we don't know what we don't know. And the more time that we can spend in we don't know what we don't know, that's where we grow. So if you are looking to go into that business, go in, get all the education you can, become a sponge, absorb everything, make it part of who you are, make it part of your DNA. I see so many people get stuck with analysis paralysis, right? They sit there, they learn year after year after year, and they don't take action.
Right.
But once you start educating yourself, you have to go take action. If you don't take action, you're stuck, right? It's like anything else in life, right, Ella? If we don't move forward, we're stuck. Hey, if you didn't start this podcast, but thought about it continually over and over and over again, right? You'd at some point go, man, I should have done that. Or maybe I should do that or something, right? So I think that's the same thing with anything that we do in life. So here's a quick story. So I go, this is early on in my in entrepreneurial career, right? I decide I want to go into the real estate investing business. And I have no idea what that means. I'm probably 24 or 25 years old at the time. And so I'm reading the newspaper one day and there's this full page ad. And this is how they used to do it, right? They put a full page ad in the newspaper. You'd go to a half day event at a hotel somewhere. And then they try to upsell you to a weekend event and you'd go back. And so I go to this half day event and it's from a guy by the name of Robert Allen. And Robert Allen is probably one of the grandfather real estate investors in the world. And he tells this story. His whole hook was no money down, creative financing, other people's money, all transferable skills today. So the hook was that he put this challenge out to the world. Hey, put me anywhere in the United States, take my wallet, leave me $20, and in 3 days, I'll own real estate and have cash in my pocket and have slept in a nice hotel. That was his challenge to the world. St. Louis Times takes him up on it, says, we're going to put you in the middle of St. Louis. We're going to take your wallet, leave you $20, and let's see what happens by Monday morning. This is Friday afternoon. So they follow him around. By Monday, he owns 4 pieces of real estate and he has $4,000 in his pocket. And I'm hooked, right? I go, God, if he can do this, I can do it. And that's kind of always been one of my philosophies, right? If you can do it, Ella, I can go do it. There's no doubt. Well, maybe some things, but so so I go to the full weekend event then. So I pay the money, go to the full weekend event. And, I have all this like basic knowledge, a little bit of information, and I start to take some action. So Monday morning, I'm scanning the newspaper, the classified ads, and this is long before cell phones. So I'm calling from the kitchen, these owners, and asking the questions that he suggested that we ask. And I find this owner, or 2 owners actually, and I go out and I meet with one, and then I go meet with the other. I come home, I've got a contract in my hand. I just bought a 4-unit for $1,000 down, and the owner's going to hold the paper on the rest. So after this weekend event, I learned how to go do it, and I went and took action. And I bought my first piece of real estate, no money, little money down, $1,000. And the owner held the paper for 3 years. it was the best investment really I ever made. So.
Wow. Do you think could you do something like that nowadays?
I believe you can. So let's fast forward a number of years.
All right.
I bought a 450 unit apartment complex.
Mm-hmm.
It was a $15 million purchase, and did that in a similar type of event. So the owner held the paper, and it was $250,000 down on a $15 million transaction. So, yes, you can do it. You can do it on any scale that you try to do it on. What you have to do is you have to find out what the seller's problem is and how do you solve the problem. Because what you have to be is you have to be a problem solver. And you do that by asking questions, doing the research, compiling the data, and then executing on the data.
Very cool. I think that's a really good takeaway for anybody listening or watching, because I think a lot of the time when we're looking at getting into different investments, especially when it comes to land, for people who haven't done it before, it just feels really like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to have all this money, or my credit's gonna need to be in this place, or it can just be really overwhelming. So this is a really good takeaway in the sense that you can start small, you can do things with little money down. And as long as you have, the right guidance and you're working with good people.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. So, and it's transferable, right? I think you can do it. You asked a great question, could you do it now? I believe that you can do it now. And I think that there's people doing it. So, yeah.
That's really cool. This has been really informative. What would you say are the 3 things that you are watching right now? Like if you had to pick the top 3, what are you watching right now in real estate, and where do you see the most opportunity?
What I'm watching in real estate right now is I'm watching the market. Where's the market going to go? Which I believe, my own prediction of it, because I lived through 2007, 2008, because I sat in a restaurant with my CFO and we watched the news when people were carrying boxes out of Lehman Brothers and the world was shutting down. And I lived through that and I experienced the loss of my business. I see shades of that today. I'm watching that. So that would have to be the first top thing that I'm watching, is where the market's going to go. I'm watching, the Feds and the interest rates. I'm watching cap rates as they continue to compress and pricing goes up. I'm watching brokers, the way that they're pricing property that doesn't make sense to me today. I'm watching the residential market accelerate, and the P&E market and the stock market kind of off the rails a little bit. The value, I don't see where some of the values are. Tech companies going and getting billions of dollars on smoke and mirrors, right? So I'm watching a lot of that right now just to see where it's going to go. I believe that in the next 18 months that the market is going to take a turn, that it's going to slow down. We'll go from what right now is a seller's market to being a buyer's market, right? So I think the market will change. We're going to see interest rates go up. We'll see cap rates start to decompress. We'll start to see pricing restabilize. So as a result of that, still in that first, what am I watching space? I'm watching how I underwrite my deals today. I'm being very conservative. So I'm raising money on deals, but I'm underwriting very conservatively. And this is one of the things that I teach people in my coaching and when I work with them, is how to underwrite conservatively. You have to look at your loan to value. Remember early on, I said that I was 85% leveraged loan to value on $60 million worth of real estate. I don't know who was worse, me for taking the money or the banks for giving it to me, right? So I'm watching that and cautioning people how to conservatively underwrite. So your loan to value should be 65 to 70% today. Don't push your rents too much. Hey, buy in high rent growth markets, you know. So I like Florida, I like Huntsville, I like Texas, and the primary markets. I like Phoenix and Charlotte because the population migration is so great. You know, people are leaving California, they're leaving New
Oh
York,
yeah.
they're leaving Illinois, they're going. I have some friends who sold some companies this year in California and moved to Texas, right? So because the market's where it's at. But they're doing it too for lifestyle. You know, there's no state tax, state income tax in those
There,
states.
there's states that are legit recruiting people
Yeah.
with their, like Nebraska had commercials running in California saying, have you seen, the beauty of Nebraska and our low state tax? Like they're legit recruiting some of
Yeah.
the high earners and whatnot out of these states
I know, it's
into.
crazy, right?
Well, I mean, I feel like California picked a bad time. Like it was like late 2020 when they really cracked down on these new tax right in the middle of COVID. People were working from home anyways, and they're like, screw it. Like, why are we here?
I know.
And a lot of people left.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The second thing I'm watching is product class. So I'm heavy in multifamily. I like multifamily, but I think there's other space to look at, right? So a lot of talk lately about the industrial market. You know, a lot of returns, a lot of profitability in that market. Self-storage, another market. So I still think that you need to watch the senior housing market, the not so much assisted living as the senior housing market. And so those are a couple things. Watch the markets and how that's changing. And then I think what people are doing. So, I'm a contrarian, right? So if somebody's going right, I'm going to go left.
Yeah.
So I kind of watch what people are doing, except when it comes to the population migration, right? So if everybody's moving to Florida, I'm not going to Alaska. So if that makes
That's
sense.
where you'll go with the crowd. Yeah. But I think that's a really good marketing strategy in general, which is contrast, don't compete.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Competition. I mean, you may have heard this in the past, but I don't even look at, the only competition is myself. Can I get up tomorrow morning a little bit earlier? Right. So,
Did you get up this morning a little bit earlier?
I did actually,
Good.
but I couldn't sleep. So it was kind of, I don't know if I did it intentionally or just
Potato.
Yeah.
You did. No, and I think that's a really good attitude to have. And I think that's it's a good perspective. It's a good attitude to have. I think it's very logical and simple. It's hard to adopt sometimes because we are sort of inundated. But I think that's a really good perspective. And I'm sure that your life experience helped with that, with having that perspective shift and just being like, yo, yeah, maybe today wasn't perfect, or I'm not exactly where company isn't exactly where I want it to be, but life's okay. Like we're doing good.
Yeah, for sure. So what's interesting is, I didn't come from a family that was entrepreneur at all. So I don't know how I got any of this, right? So to go into to my own business, much less in the real estate space, I didn't grow up in a world like that at all. And so I think people take different things in their life and move forward with them. So
what do you think was the catalyst that got you into if you had to guess, what would you say?
Yeah. Oh, I think I know the answer to this. So I worked for a couple of guys that I looked at them and I said, man, I could do better than you. Did you ever work for somebody like that? And you go, I can't believe you're my boss, and I really think I could do better than you. So I just said, screw it. I'm going to go open my own business. And I did that. And, I was relatively successful as a result of it. And that was when I was in the construction business. So, short story, I was in the swimming pool business. I worked for a contractor. We put in-ground swimming pools and serviced them. And the guy was, I didn't think he was very smart. And I said, man, I think I could do better than this, because there were so many customer complaints, right? So as a result of the customer complaints, I knew I could go do something different.
Wow. That's it. Yeah, that's cool. And so you did something different.
Yeah. So, I've been self-employed for years now. So
Yeah. Yeah. And do you ever have any regrets? Like, would you ever change anything?
you know what? We'll
What?
leave that for another show.
Really?
Well, listen, I'm not about throwing anybody under the bus about anything. I
Right.
take full responsibility for my actions and everything I did in my life. And I'm sorry for what happened to my investors and my company and the implosion there.
Mm-hmm.
But, I was friends with my partner for 26 years.
Mm.
And I talked to somebody the other day who was my ex-accountant. And we used a Big 8 firm back then. And he said something very interesting. He said, Mike, I always knew you'd take a bullet for somebody, but I didn't know you'd take 2 bullets for him.
Woo.
And I said, yeah. I said, well, it just kind of happened that way. So, there was a lot of lies and a lot of stories that happened as a result of this. And I don't diminish for a minute that I made some bad business mistakes. When you're in a tumultuous time, when the chaos is high and the stress is high, you have to make decisions and you have to act in a way that, as a CEO of a company, and trust me, I'll never put CEO on my business card again. I'll never take a job because you handle way too much responsibility. People look at you, you are more the fall guy than anybody else. So listen, you and I go into business together, Ella, we're equals. That's it, but I took 2 bullets for, some things that happened that I shouldn't have taken any responsibility for, but I did. So, it's like,
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
remember Gilligan's Island? The captain went down with, they all went down with the ship. So kind of that deal.
Yeah. This is really interesting. And this is good advice in general around being careful with titles. And especially nowadays where like everybody's an entrepreneur. Like I see COOs in companies that are doing like $500,000. I'm like, what the hell do you need a COO for? But being careful with titles, because if something does go awry, like if you think about it, if like let's say tomorrow, all over the news, front page, Apple, owes 50 million in payroll taxes that weren't paid. Who's going down for that?
Yeah.
The CEO or the CFO, right? Either one. Whose job was it? Well, the payroll manager.
Right.
Like that was his job, to make sure that payroll taxes were being paid. So being very aware of, and again, when time like that, when things are moving really fast and they're very tumultuous, and I think, I don't know anybody that wouldn't have, whatever happened. But that's a really good point in general of just being aware around titles and how much it affects what your role is perceived to be and how much you're in control of in the company.
Yeah. My ex-partner and I were friends for about 26 years. And, I didn't believe this was one of those things. I didn't think at the time that I'd grow $100 million company.
Right.
And, it kind of happened just like that. Right. And so I trusted that there were things happening and taking part that should have been happening and taking part, but they weren't. And because they weren't, I had to take responsibility for it. So, to answer your question, it's kind of a long answer to your question, but your question was, what would I do differently? I wouldn't have given up so much of my company, and I wouldn't have listened to other people. Here, you got time for another story?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. So, 2008, my first indication that something's wrong, and I don't pay attention to it. So I say, in the fall of my company, there's 5 mistakes I made. I grew too fast and I was very unstable. I was undercapitalized. It didn't raise enough money and I was over leveraged. 85% loan to value on $60 million worth of real estate is a no-no. I didn't listen to the people around me and I didn't pay attention to the details. So here's what happens. 2008, I'm in a closing in Cincinnati. I'm closing the biggest real estate deal that we've closed to date, 280 units. And I'm waiting in the title company for this money to come from my office. $500,000 is the money to get the deal closed. It's, it's our side of the money. It's the money we raised. It's in the escrow account. It's not coming. Nobody's wiring it. I can't get a hold of anybody in my office. I finally get my partner on the phone and he says, "Hey, I don't know how to tell you this."
Ooh.
So, you got it, right? You got it. You go, "You don't know how to tell me what?" And it better be good, right? So he goes to say, "Listen, I took 500,000 from the escrow account. I put it in the business account." I said, "You what?" I said, "We had this conversation when we first went into to business that you never do that. You knew that." He goes, "I thought I'd have the money back." I said, "I don't care." I said, "Okay, listen, I'll work this out here. I'll be back in the morning. We'll deal with this in the morning." So I dry close, means I sign all the paperwork, get the owner, the seller and the title company to say, "Okay, you've got till Tuesday to fund this deal." So I go back to the office. I give away equity on the deal. I wind up raising the money that we're short from new investors. I get the deal closed. It funds on Tuesday. Everything's good. But here's what happens along the way. And I want people to really pay attention to this. So I never talked to my wife about business. I never told her anything. Mistake, right? I think that we're in relationships. Husbands and wives are in relationships because one is smarter than the other. And typically in my case, it's always my wife is smarter than me and I need to pay attention and listen. And I think guys need to take that to heed. So here's what happens. I never tell my wife about business. I never tell her what's going on. And on Wednesday, I'm in this closing. I can't get the deal closed. On Friday, we go out to dinner with my ex-partner and his wife. And on the way home, she doesn't know what happened on Wednesday. On the way home, out of clear blue nowhere, she says, "Hey, I don't trust him." And so what do? I think I'm going to be a good husband. And what I say is, "Don't worry, honey. I have this under control. You're safe. I got your back. Don't worry about it." Thinking that that's what she needed. She needed security. She needed to know that I had her best interest at heart. When really what I should have said was, "What do you mean? Tell me more. What do you see that I'm missing?" Right? And I should have understood that. So I blew that off, right? And I kind of blew an opportunity there in relationship, right? But here's the kicker. On Wednesday, a few days later, I'm out to lunch with my attorney. And I had an in-house legal counsel and an outside legal counsel. And this is my longtime attorney, longtime friend, outside legal counsel. We go to lunch. We're leaving lunch. He puts his arm around me in the parking lot, which is unusual to begin with. And he says, "Listen, I want you to pay attention to what's going on. I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like what your partner's up to.
Ooh.
You don't need him. You need to do something else. Bob, don't worry about this. I got this. I'm okay." And I didn't have shit. I didn't have anything under control at that point. I knew my life was starting to come off the rails.
Ooh.
And, it's just interesting. We don't pay attention to the things around you. I'm walking into a board meeting. I've got a board of advisors, 12 men and women who are much smarter than me that I go to and I tell them about my company and I tell them what's going on. And I listen to them and they've helped me grow. They basically took me from, 3 or 4 deals, a couple of $1 million in equity we had raised, to raising $18 million in 30 months and really growing this property management company. I got a $100 million company in 2009. And 2010, I'm walking into this board meeting and we're off the rails. Things are bad. I plan to tell the board everything that's going on. And my attorney, in-house legal counsel, catches me in the parking lot. He says, "Hey, don't talk to them about any of this." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm coming here totally with the intention of, no, we don't have enough information." I said, "What do you mean we don't have enough information? We're bleeding. We're laying in a parking lot half dead. We need some life breathed into us. I need to talk to these people." And he's like, "Give me 2 weeks. We'll do a conference call." Well, that 2 weeks never came. We never did a conference call. But here's what I did. I'm the CEO of the company. I've grown this company. And the market changes, which causes us to be in a situation where it's hard to make choices and decisions. And I let somebody else tell me how to run my business when I never should have done that. So a lot of times, people around us either help us or they hurt us. And you make a choice as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, of which one you're going to choose.
That's a really important story that you just told. That's a really important story because whether it's your own instinct or whether it's somebody around you or multiple people around you saying, "Hey, I'm just getting a weird vibe here. I'm getting a weird feeling. Something feels really out of alignment." It's really, really hard. I love what Dan Sullivan said one time. You can't read the label from inside the jar. And it's really hard to see our own, where there could be pitfalls in our own situations. And having people around you that are willing to say, "Hey, something feels off," or like, "Don't say that," or "I'm not liking what I'm seeing here," or whatever, is really valuable. And that's a really important story, especially in business where it's legit all about having people that you can trust.
Yep.
Like
100%.
Yeah.
I love that though. You can't read a label from inside a jar. God, that was
you can't read the label from inside the jar. It's Joe Polish would always say that to me. I'm pretty sure Dan Sullivan originally said it, but when it comes to our businesses, writing our own copy, weeding through relationships, you can't see the forest through the trees sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Wow, that's a really important story. I'm really happy you shared that and it just shows, like, on the outside, you had every semblance of being a huge success. The company scaled in 30 months to 100 million, right? Like, everything was this huge success. But on the inside, I mean, there's always turmoil on the inside, especially when something's getting that big.
Yeah.
Would you ever take a venture? Do you have any goals to take a venture that big again? Do you have any desire to do that?
So I want to do something big. I want to do something great. But I don't know that I'm really sure what that is right now. I know that I like coaching. I know that I want to own a few thousand apartments again. Do I want to build $100 million company? I don't know. Here's where my heart's at today. My heart is for people. I like helping people. I'm starting to get involved with a prison ministry, which I think is a big need. You come home from prison and it's hard, especially when you come home and you don't have anything. It's hard to get going. I didn't have anything. I was in the halfway house, didn't know where I was going to go, didn't know what I was going to do, no job, no money, and so there's a new ministry that started at church that hopefully I'm going to get more involved with. I've spent some time with the director, and so it looks like. But here's the story around this, right? So you're in prison. There's 2 shampoos that you can buy. One's for the white guys, one's for the black guys, right? It's a pretty simple choice, right? What shampoo you're going to buy. You come home, you go to Walmart, there's 45 choices, and you go, you revert back to what you've been buying for 5, 6, 7 years. And it's just, so guys need help, right? I had a friend driving me to a job interview when I first came out, and I looked at him and I said, "Ross," I said, "I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Like I shouldn't be out, Yeah. So there's a big adjustment, and it takes some months. I really think that I'm really grateful that I came home, they locked the world down for the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because, the hustle and bustle was a lot less. I think it might have been more harmful. So
I remember experiencing, it sounds weird, but I remember experiencing one of the most peaceful times of my life when the pandemic first hit, because it was like, I wasn't happy that people were getting sick or any of that, but it was like, even if I wanted to be at like this event right now, I couldn't. Even if like, it's kind of like, I don't know, I have one of the most peaceful times ever in my life is when I'm on a plane. Because when I'm on a plane, if I die, I die. What am I going to do about it? But it's like there's nowhere else I could be right now. Nobody can really reach me. Even if I wanted to be somewhere else, I couldn't be. Like, it's just something that allows me to experience a lot of presence. And I remember feeling that at the beginning of the pandemic, like right around April of 2020, when I was like, wow, it's just like there's really nowhere else I could be right now but here. Nobody's traveling, nobody's doing anything. Everybody was in the same boat. And there definitely is something to having limited options that gives me anyways. There's a sense of peacefulness around that. And I don't know where that comes from, but
that's pretty cool that you said that. So it's interesting.
yeah, I don't know if other people relate to that, but I remember just being like, it was a sense of like, oh, there's nowhere else I could be right now. It's fine. Like, I don't need to worry. Because we do live in a world of a lot. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of options. There's, NFTs, metaverse, crypto, real estate, online, whatever. Like, there's a lot you could be doing with your time, your energy, etc.
Yeah. And I think you have to pick something and
Yeah.
kind of focus on it.
Yeah.
I think the most successful people are people who have stuck with the same thing year after year after year. Gary V talks about it, right? About wine library and building his parents' wine company, right? He did that for years and years and years, relentlessly without being paid back. I have a friend in the real estate business that, we've known each other 30 years. We got into real estate at the same time. He's still doing the same thing that he was doing way back then. Listen, I made a lot of money selling houses, and why I ever went in the apartment business, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that today, but life might have been different. So
Who knows, right? All right. So where can people find you?
Anywhere on social media. Anywhere you are on social media or you get fed on social media, you can find me, Mike Morawski, or my company, My Core Intentions. I have a couple of podcasts that I do. And, I wrote a book called Exit Plan, which is your complete guide to multifamily investing and why you need an exit plan before you buy. And I wrote that because I've been to tons of seminars and everybody teaches you how to get in a deal, really good trainers and teachers, but everybody teaches you how to find a deal, get in a deal, run a deal. Nobody teaches you how to get out. Nobody teaches you how to maximize your profit. And that's what I wanted people to know. Listen, there's different points and different ways. You don't just have to sell a deal to maximize your profit. So that's what I teach people a lot. So you could go to my website, download my book. It's at mycoreintentions.com/exit plan. And then I love to network and I love to meet people. Like I said, I want to tell my story to the world. So you can reach out at mike@mycoreintentions.com.
Okay, you're sure you want to give out your email? You're good with that? Well, you already did, but you're good with that? We might blow up your inbox.
Hey, do you have millions of listeners? I hope so.
It's going to be ridiculous. Absolutely. No, not yet. It's not millions.
Once they see it's you and me together. So.
Right. Look, reach out to Mike. This is really cool. I'm a big fan of what he's doing. He's obviously got a really cool story behind him. If you're, looking at, I know real estate investing is something I'm looking at right now in terms of using my money wisely and growing it. So this guy knows what he's doing. Reach out to him. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate you and everything you do, Ella. Thank you.
I love it. Okay, hang out with me backstage for a hot minute. And everybody, thank you for listening. Hang tight for this quick message from our sponsors.
This broadcast is brought to you by WINJECT Studios. We are an all-in-one educational platform for podcasters that revolutionizes how hosts leverage content to increase engagement with listeners, downloads, and income. We come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how you can interact directly with our hosts, access exclusive live content with offers you can't get anywhere else from our official partners, join our purpose-driven community by visiting www.winject.com. If you're ready to build a career doing what you love, then we're ready to see you there.